Okay, so are we good to start?
Yep.
Good to go.
Good.
Awesome. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Modern Times book launch, considering that we are on a Zoom. So this is the book, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And I would like to say first off, thank you so much to all of the translators and everybody who's had anything to do with this. I am completely and utterly impressed with these guys because as they've been translating, they've been asking me questions, etc., for different verbiage. Because if you have ever been to an Access Consciousness class, sometimes something might not be grammatically correct, but it's energetically correct. So translating these books, I think, is amazing gift for everyone in the world, and these guys are an amazing gift. So I just want to give a little round of applause for these guys because I am incredibly grateful. And if all goes according to plan, it looks like for the 2018 year-long course of Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, we'll be in, at the moment, Spanish, German, French, Portuguese. So if all goes according to plan, that would be great. So look out for it. And we have more languages coming soon. So what I thought I would do to begin this is I'm actually going to read a little bit, like a real book launch. So I'm going to read a little bit of this book. And then we can, if you guys have some questions, or we can talk about, some tools, etc. Because one of the things, first of all, okay, I'll read the forward. If you guys have, I'm hoping that you got sent the books or you have them. So this is the forward because it gives a little bit of a story about what occurred for me, okay? So, and I am not reading any of the side, so the Joy of Business Dazzle or Simone Dazzle, if there's anything there I need to look up, please let me know. So, because I was $187,000 in debt before I was willing to change my financial reality. So that's a lot of money. And I pretty much had nothing to show for it. I had lots of different jobs and traveled all over the world. I had started businesses and I was having a lot of fun. I was still making money, but I didn't have a house or investments or any awareness of how much I was really in. I avoided looking at it, and in the back of my mind, I thought that...
Hang on, someone's muted Simone.
What's that?
We lost your sound. You got muted accidentally.
Oh. Fair enough. So how long have I been muted for?
Literally 3 seconds.
Oh, okay. So the beginning, like this first paragraph of this book pretty much explains the story that I had and lived. Like I was in debt, $187,000. And there's so many people I know who have the same point of view that it would just go away if you didn't look at it. That one day you'd wake up and it would all be gone, or some magical fairy is going to come along and pay off all your debt and everything's going to be okay. I mean, Brendan Watt, my partner, his point of view literally years and years ago was don't open the mail. And he used to put all of his mail that, you can tell the ones that look like bills, and he would put them all in a drawer and he wouldn't open it. And when I interviewed him and asked him a question about it, he said, I literally thought that if I didn't open it, they would stop bugging me and it would go away. Like that was his point of view. So I actually have some amazing interviews at the back of this book because I wanted to show that it's not just me who created a change and created a difference in my financial reality. So I have an amazing interview with Gary Douglas and Chutisa and Steve Bowman. And the 3 interviews that I love, I think the most because of the amount of change, because I interviewed Dane here, Brendan Watt and Chris Hughes in 2016. And recently I went into a recording studio and did the audio for this book. And when I read those 3 stories, I got to see the change that those 3 men have created in 1 year. And there's so much more change that they are creating. And I was so grateful to see that, you know, all these people literally using Access Consciousness tools. So also, when I came along to Access, I started using the tools, probably like most of you, straight away. And I was so grateful, and I could perceive the changes that were occurring in so many areas of my life. The one area that I didn't use them was money. And it took me a while to do that. I listened to Gary and Dane talk about it for about 3 different times, I think, like at different seminars, talk about money. And then one day at a seminar in the Gold Coast, Australia, I listened to the tools and I thought, you know what? What if I just started to put these into action? What if I just started to use them? What's the worst thing that could happen? And I thought the worst thing that could happen is that I'm still in debt. The worst thing that could happen is nothing changes. So I started to put the Access Consciousness tools into action. And I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want to have the projections and the expectations of, well, basically this reality usually projects at you, you won't be able to do this. I mean, how many of you people have encouraging people around you? I know what I grew up with was more like, yeah, I'm not sure you'll be able to actually do that, rather than the encouragement and the empowering that, yes, anything is possible. So I didn't tell anyone, and I started to use some of these tools, and I noticed that things changed. And I gave myself 3 months to use the tools and then see if something would change. So, and it wasn't necessarily like, oh, now I have lots of money in my bank account. It was more about looking at those 3 months and seeing, okay, what's my point of view around money now? Because I noticed there was an energy that changed with me. I actually had some money because one of the tools I used, which I will talk about that today, is the 10% account. So the 10% account made no sense to me whatsoever. The 10% account is putting away 10% of absolutely everything that you earn. So you earn $100, you put away $10, that's just for you, and it's an honoring of you. And it's not putting it away to save it up. It's not a savings account. It's not to help out a friend. It's not to go on a holiday. It's not to buy the new car you've been looking at. It's none of that. The 10% is putting away 10% as an honoring of you, and you never get to spend it. Now, that's the piece that I was like, what? I'm putting 10% of my money away and I never get to spend it. And I've got all these bills to pay. That made no sense to me whatsoever. Because when I owed $187,000, I went through all of these different feelings of going, oh my goodness, I feel so bad that I'm not paying these people and I'm putting 10% away for me. But there's so many points of view that come up for people around things like that. Like I got to the stage where I didn't really want to earn much money because every time I earned money, it went to paying off all the bills I'd created. It's like, and how many of you have that point of view? Rather than you still have to create your life. So what I did was I rang every single person that I owed money to, whether it was a individual or a company, and I said, look, I'm really aware that I owe you this amount of money. I apologize, I haven't paid it back to you. I'm aware of it. I am going to do the absolute best I can to pay it back as soon as I can, whether that's like $50 a week or $50 a month. And that's what I started doing. But what I also did was I put this 10% away that was just for me. And I told myself, okay, 3 months, do this, because it made no sense. But guess what? It doesn't make sense. If you could work everything out with your logical mind, you'd have everything you ever desired already. So it doesn't make sense. And I mean, Einstein's, definition of insanity was doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Luego tienes que hacer así y vas de vuelta así. No, ¿dónde era que estábamos?
Thanks. So how many of you are doing the same thing and expecting a different result? And everything that is times a godzillion when you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all names, shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, this is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. If you'd like to find out more, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. The basis of it is it changes everything. It's like pressing a delete button on your computer, you know, with all your programs open. It's like delete, 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 so that everything has more clarity. It's like all the limitations, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and you're deleting them, okay? So it's right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And it's the point of creation and the point of destruction of where we create one of those points of view. And then we start living by that, rather than actually asking every day a different question or another question and looking at the place of what's my reality today? And the question I'd like to give you all to ask each and every day is, what's my financial reality today? If I was creating my financial reality today, what would I choose and what would I create? And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all names, shorts, boys and beyonds. Because how many of you grow up with the same points of view that your parents had? I mean, I literally did a private session one day with someone who used to always say, money doesn't grow on trees. That's what she grew up with. Her parents would say, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, you know. You know what her family owned? An orchard. Literally, money grew on trees. I was like, that's very ironic. But you grow up with the hearing the same thing over and over again. I mean, there's so many things that we can talk about today, because one of the things I always advise as well is educate your children. If they're asking you questions about something, give them the information. Because how many of you didn't have the information when you were growing up to be educated about money? Money is not scary. Money is not something, someone just wrote in there, never talk about money. We grew up with that too. At the dinner table, you were not supposed to talk about money or business. We had to talk about, you know, what the kid down the road was doing, or look at the bird outside. And I was like, seriously? My father loved business, my brother liked business, and I liked business, and we weren't allowed to talk about it at the dinner table. It was considered rude. So would you be willing to give up all the points of view of talking about money and business is rude? And everything that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. What if you could actually love money? I love having money. It's awesome. So if we're not on, what if you all say out loud once, I love money, it's awesome. I love money, it's awesome. I love money, it's awesome.
I love money, it's awesome.
I love money, it's awesome. And you know what? Do you notice that that there's this lightness that comes into your universe? Because you're actually allowed to love money. You're allowed to love creating it. You're allowed to love having it. And how many of you, as soon as you get it in your hand, you want to spend it as soon as you can? I mean, truthfully, look at that. Money comes into your account. Yeah. And how many of you just go, oh, quickly, what can I spend it on? You either look for bills to pay, or you look for, you know, quickly how quickly you can spend it. So the thing is, what getting out of debt joyfully is about is not about you going to the wrongness of you. Okay, you're not wrong. You've never been wrong. It's about giving you more tools and more clarity and more awareness so that you can create a different financial reality. That's what I would like to invite you all to, okay? So let's start. I don't know, in English, it's on page 15. So I know that, I don't know if you guys have translated versions or not. Okay, so this is chapter 1. What makes money? From here. So if you are looking for a quick fix to your money problems, this isn't it. It's not a quick fix. If you are looking for something that will give you the perspectives and tools to change your entire lifestyle, your reality and future with money, and you are willing to give yourself at least 12 months and see what can be created at that time, this book will have a lot to contribute to you. What I would really like you to get is that you are the source of creation of money in your life. When you are willing to be everything that you are, you become an infinitely creative source for everything in your life, including money. You have an unlimited and mostly unaccessed capacity to create a financial reality that would work for you, for you, for you, for you. Your financial reality should work for you. The problem is, most of us have been taught so many things about money that simply are not true. When we begin to unpack those myths and misconceptions and start to play with different perspectives and combine them with simple and pragmatic tools, dynamic change in your monetary world becomes a lot easier and more joyful to create. What if money is not what you have brought, been told, sold, or taught that it is? What if your willingness to be curious, questioning, playful, and to receive the random, unexpected, and unpredictable could make you way more money than you ever imagined? Are you willing to have the adventure of creating a life and living with lots of money in it? Yes? Truth? Did you answer yes? Then let's get started. So most people believe that finance and money is a linear thing. We are told over and over, in order to make money, you have to do and be A, and then B, and then C. That is the mindset we come to live by, and we spend our time constantly searching for the perfect formula for making lots of money. We keep looking at money as something that only shows up as a result of doing certain things, like working hard, working many hours, inheriting money, or winning the lottery. But what if creating money was not necessarily a cause and effect paradigm? What if money could show up in all kinds of ways, from all kinds of places? When I changed my financial reality, I had money show up in the most bizarre places. Money was gifted to me, and I had really odd and lucrative jobs show up. It was also a lot easier for me to recognize and receive these different things showing up, because at that point, I was asking, what are the myriad of different ways that can show up for me now? And I was willing to do anything and take any job that was adding to my life and expanding my financial reality. I didn't refuse the money or the possibilities. Rather, I opened up to them with no point of view of what they looked like. This allowed things to show up and contribute to my life in ways I wouldn't have been able to even recognize if I had decided money had to come into my life in an A, B, linear type fashion. So how many of you have decided that you can only make money by the amount of hours you work? And everything that is times a godzillion when you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, hard or orange, shorts, boys and beyonds. If you're willing to receive, which is a huge change that you need to make, like ask, where am I not receiving? It's like pock and pot everywhere that you're not receiving today. Destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. It's amazing what can show up. And, you know, I mean, there's so many tools in this book that we go through, and in the year-long course, we go through all of these different tools. And I'll give you one thing to practice right now, today, is the next time someone says to you, hey, can I buy you lunch? Or, oh, can I grab, you know, can I buy the coffee? Or let me get you a drink. How many of you go, no, it's okay, it's fine, I got it. And then you either try and pay for yourself or you try and pay for them and you. How many of you refuse to receive? Like anything, the next time someone tries to gift you anything, whether it's a cup of coffee or doing something for you, I want you to recognize the areas where you are refusing to receive. And your home play is to receive it. And just go, oh, yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Thank you so much. How many times when someone gives you a compliment and tells you something how amazing you've done, and you will try and justify why you did it? Oh, I was only really quick at doing that because of ABC. No. What if you were great? What if you were awesome? You know, my son had to fill out an application last night for a boarding school, and they asked you, the last question was, here, it's just here actually, it's very cool. The last question, he's 12, says, is there something else you would like to tell us about yourself? And he wrote, I'm awesome. And I was like, that's great. And he looked at me and he went, is that okay? And I went, absolutely. And I was like, hey, write whatever you want. And it's like, how many of you have stopped knowing that you're awesome? And everything that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Wow. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all night, shorts, boys and beyonds. You know, how many of you have created no money or debt or not much wealth, money coming in, so that it matches the judgment of you, that you're not worth much? And everything that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. What if you were far greater than what you currently think you are? What if you could create so much more than what you're currently creating? You can. And the thing is, like, I mean, excuse me, I have a good story to tell. You know, it wasn't a fun story. When I was $187,000 in debt and I had nothing to show for it, I was not willing to look at what I was creating in my life. And it wasn't just money. It was so many different areas I was not willing to look at. I mean, you know, I chose really bad relationships. I chose, you know, people who judged me and my body continuously. I chose people who would never encourage me to create. And yet, when I started using these tools and started acknowledging the capacity that I had, the capacities that I do have, everything started to change. So the first thing you have to do is actually, like, destroy and uncreate your point of view that you have about you. All the decisions that you've made about you, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Destroy and uncreate your relationship with you and your relationship with money and everything that is times a godzillion. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. There is so much more that is possible. So much more. What if this was the tip of the iceberg? So what I actually started to do, I knew that I owed a lot of money, and I was sort of like, yeah, look, that's over there, you know. You want to go for a drink? Sure, let's open a bottle of champagne. I'll put that over there, you know. But I wasn't actually celebrating, I was avoiding. So what I did one day, I sat in my office and I went, okay, I need to look at this. So I had, like, it was all very organized in the sense of all my bills were sitting in a file. So I got all of my bills out, I added them up of how much I owed. I looked on my computer, went into my bank accounts, you know, looked at my credit card, my bank account, all of it. And I calculated how much money I had and how much money I owed. And that's when I sat there and went, oh, $187,000. That's a lot of money. How did you create that, Simone? So, and I went into a huge beyond. I was like, oh my goodness. And the first thing I went to was, I should just put them all back in the drawer, basically. Like, if I ignore it, maybe it will go away. And didn't want to take control of what I had created. And that was about 15 minutes that I sat there like that. And then I went, you know what, Simone, you have to look at this. You have to look at this. And I'm on my own. So I went and got a glass of wine from the fridge and went, okay, have a glass of wine. That's going to make things slightly better. Now let's look at this. And I had the Access Consciousness tools, which I'm so grateful for. And that is literally why I want this book to get out there into every language possible, and that people know that they have the choice to read it and use the tools, because I wasn't sitting in my lounge room going, oh my goodness, this is not possible. I had these tools that I went, okay, what if I just gave them a go? So when I did start it, and then 3 months later I looked at the energy, things started to change, and they started to change quickly, which I was amazed at. And I was out of debt within about 2 years, and I was creating money. Now I sat in that same office, and when I realized, looking at all my accounts and everything, when I realized that I was out of debt, I went, oh, I actually have money. Do you know what? Wasn't that exciting? I was like, really? That's it? I have money? I was like, why isn't somebody coming in here and, popping a bottle of Dom or something like that? Why isn't it like more exciting than this? And it actually had the sense of a huge letdown. Now, I was smart enough, because I had the access tools, to ask questions about what was going on. And I found 2 weeks later, I was back in debt. And then I went, oh, there's something about that feeling of being in debt that I liked. So I started running the process of, what do I love about being in debt? So what do you love about being in debt? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, what I realized was that I loved being in debt because I used no money as the source of creation. When I had no money, I'd be like, right, I better create something, rather than using me as the source of creation and creating for the fun of it, creating because I enjoyed it, which is where I function from now. And I can tell you, it's a lot more fun to create now, because you want to create a change in the world. You want to create something different, rather than, how the hell am I going to pay the rent? So everywhere that you're making the, how the hell am I going to pay the rent, the option for creation, rather than you being the source of creation, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So I sort of get that, it's like the 100 monkey syndrome. It's like, I did it the easy way, really, because I had the access consciousness tools, and yet I just kept moving forward and going, okay, next step, next step, next step. And I knew that I had to do something different, and I had to be something different. So what energy are you refusing to be, that if you were it, would change your financial reality? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So someone's just written in here, she said, I grew up in a family where debt was actually something valuable. And now for me, having money is really uncomfortable. Exactly the same thing. It's like, how many of you grew up with something like that? I mean, how many people grow up with being projected at them, rich people aren't happy. Money doesn't make you happy. Well, guess what? Nothing, money doesn't make you happy. No, you get to wake up. You get to choose waking up and being happy or not. Happiness is just a choice. You know what? Having money is a whole lot more fun. Can I tell you, traveling in first class is a whole lot more fun than traveling in economy. And there's different things like that came up for me, which will come up for you, okay? Like, I remember one time when I was traveling to Costa Rica, and I was going to a 7-day event with Access Consciousness, and I bought myself a business class ticket, and I was very excited because I had bought my ticket, and I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh, I've got a business class ticket. This is awesome. You get to board the plane first. And then they address you, they give you a glass of champagne. It was very exciting, being treated like a princess. And I was so grateful for myself. And I'm sitting on the plane with my glass of champagne, and it just so happened that there's probably like about 10 or 12 people going to the same event that I was going to from Access. So as I was sitting on the plane with my champagne, they got on, they've got to walk past you, and I, said hello, and I was like, hi, third person in, fourth person, I started to cringe and go like this. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to hide. And I had created this judgment of myself that I was in business class and they were in economy. And it was like I was being embarrassed by it. And then the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh person, I was functioning like that, just sort of going, oh God, I hope they don't see me. And then like this is all happening while the plane is loading. Then I was like, what am I doing? What am I creating? I created the money for this business class ticket. And this is fun. Why would I not enjoy it based on what other people are not choosing? How many of you have been doing that? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So by the last few people, I was more like, you know, sitting up, shoulders back, enjoying my champagne. Just like, you know, morning, you know, and greeting them again. And I was being me. You know, when Brendan Watt, when I first started dating him, I had a convertible BMW. And I remember picking him up one day and he said to me, oh, can you put the roof up? And I was like, sure. I just thought he didn't want the sun on him or he didn't want to mess his hair up. I'm not sure, you know, didn't really think about it, but I put the roof up. And he told me only a couple of years ago that he didn't want to drive around in a convertible BMW with the roof down because you would look like, it looked like a rich wanker. And I don't know if wanker translates, but it's like a rich, oh God, how do you translate wanker? But it's like I guess like a, you know, okay, someone wrote that. Okay, good. So, but it's like, you know, so you know the energy of it. But he was not willing to have that. And the other day we were at a supermarket and I quickly ran into the supermarket to get some stuff. And he's sitting in the car with the roof down in a much nicer convertible BMW that I have now. And I started laughing and I went, oh, Brendan, you look like such a rich wanker. And he just laughed. So, but it's like, how many of you have been refusing to even have the appearance of wealth? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Are you getting to see the amount of energy that you put in place to not have money, to not invite it, to not receive it? All that energy that you are so diligent on putting into not receiving more and not having more, will you please destroy and uncreate it? Make it easy on yourself and ask, what would it be like if I started receiving more today? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So I'm just trying to, if there's any questions on the side, please let me know. And does anyone have any questions right now? I tend to just keep talking. You'd have to unmute yourself if you wanted to ask a question as well. So, okay, good. I want to talk about that. Someone just wrote in there, my mum's side of the family, I guess, has the feeling that inheritance is more valuable than creation. So I'm stopping myself creating. The men create more than women. Yeah, that's something that this reality projects all the time, that men should create more than women, and that you are not allowed to earn more money than the men in the family. So everything that is, and everywhere that you have created your life based on that point of view, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And all of you who are waiting for your inheritance, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. You know, many, many years ago, my parents bought a house for my grandmother. And somewhere along the lines, my point of view was when my grandmother died, that I would get some of this inheritance. I would get some of this house. And I had a conversation with Gary Douglas and I said, oh, the only way, listen to the question, no question, big conclusion. The only way that I know I could ever afford to buy a house is if my grandmother died and I got that inheritance. Good question, isn't it? How many of you have good questions like that? And he goes, really? And I said, yeah, that's the only way that I could ever afford to buy a house is if I got an inheritance. And he went, really? Now, if Gary Douglas says really to you a couple of times, you got to stop and look at what you're actually saying. And I went, oh God. And I was like, I still didn't believe that I could create that much money. And I was like, I get the conclusion. So what I want you to look at, it's not the how something else can show up, but look at the places where you perceive you are going to conclusion. And even if you went, okay, pock and pot all the conclusions I have here, and what question could I ask? What else is possible? What else is possible? What else is possible? Just ask that. And you know what happened? My grandmother died and I got nothing. My parents took the money back from buying her the house. So, and I haven't got any inheritance yet. My father is now, passed on. God bless him. He was an amazing man. And my mother is the only one left. And I'm not even sure I'm going to get any of that because it's very clear that my brother would be more of the favorite child. So if I was waiting on inheritance and stopped creating, I wouldn't have everything I have now. So everywhere that you are waiting on your inheritance rather than creating today, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad. Wow, that's a lot of you. That's a lot of energy. Everything at that is right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. So someone just wrote, I'm sorry, I'm randomly reading the side of this. So if there's anything that you're writing and you want me to read out, can you please talk about the difference between waiting for a fairy to bring me the money and creating miracles with money and receive it from everywhere? Yeah, it's like how many of you are waiting, when I said a fairy to bring you the money, it's like waiting for someone, it's almost like a knock on the door. I mean, people do it in every area. It's like how many of you, ask for something but are not willing to put any action into it to have it actualize. I mean, Gary Douglas says this whole story, which I think is hilarious. If you're going to be a prostitute, you need to put a red light outside your door or go stand on the corner with a short skirt and advertise yourself. You can't sit inside the house waiting for someone to knock on the door. So each and every choice you make creates what shows up. I mean, I have a friend of mine at the moment who just left his job, and he's been in this job for quite a while. And he's doing all of these random jobs from, driving someone to Brisbane, like driving someone down to the airport, to walking someone's dog, to he helped us out, on live stream at the classes, to, picking up product or anything. But he said, I'm just saying yes to everything right now. Because he also is asking for a change in his life. So he's just saying yes because choice creates awareness. He might say yes to something and then go, oh, that wasn't a very fun choice. But he has an awareness. And he's receiving way more now. So everywhere that you've been waiting for somebody else to test the waters, let's wait and see what it's like when they have money. And then I'll start making money. And everything at that is times the godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Look, I truly never ever perceived that I would be creating as much as I am creating today. And what my point of view today is, this is just the beginning. How many of you are willing to live and be outside of this reality and not be the same as everybody else? You do not have to be the same as everybody else. One of the tools that we give out, I think it's in the book, I know it's definitely on the 12-year course, is, have a little fun. The next time you're with a bunch of friends, whether it's at a dinner or cocktail party or a gathering or even family, anything like that, and someone starts talking about money and they start complaining about money. I've got the mortgage to pay, the kids' school fees and, all of this. No, I can't do this. And you watch, listen, don't say anything, listen. The next person starts doing the same thing. They'll start talking about how much money they don't have. And then the next person does it as well. It's almost like they're trying to compete with each other of how much money they don't have. No matter what your financial situation is today, what I want you to do is go, wow, you guys are really having a problem with money, huh? And go, you know what? I'm having so much fun with money at the moment. It's like, it's, you know, it's been awesome. And it's like, and I'm doing great. In this moment, I am awesome. And I'm having so much fun with money. And watch what happens. Because they're all like, what? It's like, this is not acceptable in this reality to just be having fun with money. And what I want you to have a look at in this moment, this 10 seconds, this is not about looking in your bank accounts. It's not about calibrating your success based on the amount of money you have or don't have. This very moment, are you okay? It's like, yeah, you are. So when you're talking about it with whoever's, you know, trying to compete with who has the biggest problems with money, it's like, look at it and go, you know what, I'm doing great. I'm having so much fun. And the creation I have in place, oh, off the charts. And then just be quiet. They might not want to invite you to the next dinner party, which is very interesting. I had a friend of mine say to me, it was a few years ago, she said, oh, do you still see this person? It was a mutual friend of ours. I said, no, I haven't seen them in ages. But I hadn't seen them in ages because I was busy and I was traveling and, you know, etc. And she said, yeah, I don't see them anymore. She said, they've got too much money now. I was like, what? You would not hang out with someone, you would not socialize with someone because they have too much money. That's insane. So everywhere that you will only socialize with people who fit into this category, they're not too poor, because you don't want to have a really poor friend, you know, God forbid, and you don't want to have a really wealthy people in your life where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds, and knock down those barriers. It's like, push the barriers down and be willing to receive more and be willing to gift more, because there is so much in gifting. Okay, so be willing to, you know, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Because the more that you're willing to gift, the universe will gift you at least 10 times more back. It might not come directly from that person. It might not come directly on that day. But if you function from a generosity of spirit, what can show up in your life is a magnanimous creation of living. And everything that doesn't allow that, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. All the tools I've used and the life I've lived and what I've chosen and what I've not chosen, I'm grateful for where I am now, and I'm grateful for everything that has occurred, with everything, from all the businesses, from the money, the no money, from the awareness of it. And the one thing I know now is no one needs to have a money problem. Tap into the energy around the world and have a look at how much money is in the world. It's like, it just keeps growing. There's more and more and more. And yet there's only people who are choosing lack and choosing scarcity. That doesn't have to be your reality. It really doesn't. So please, if there's one thing that you can take away with today, is that scarcity and poverty does not have to be your reality. So you can, you know what, if you just take that one thing away, and some of these clearing statements that we looked at, like look at the Access Consciousness website, use some of those tools, start with your 10% account. And if you have started your 10% account and you start it and you spend it, don't judge yourself. Just start again. Okay? I mean, I always think a glass of champagne or something is good for, if you're going to judge yourself, have a glass of champagne and celebrate and go, you know what? It's a good thing I'm cute, because sometimes I'm not too smart. Now let's start again. And I will say, I surrounded myself by a few people when I started my 10% account that did spend it. And then I watched when they spent it, their financial money just went like this. So you might see that happen. So I actually watched other people do that and went, I'm not spending it. So I haven't. Now I have invested in things like gold. I've got in my safe, I've got like billions of gold. I've got blocks of silver, silver coins, gold coins, you know, different things like that. I've even invested in diamonds and pearls because they are something that have intrinsic value. They have more value once you buy them. Now, I also, you can go and do that if you find it hard to keep your money straight away. Like I have a friend who, as soon as he gets the amount of money that he can buy one gold bullion with his 10%, he does that. Because that way it's a little harder for him to just go spend his 10%. You know, now he has to get the gold, go back to the bullion shop, exchange it for cash, and then spend it. So that whole process, he's like, So now he knows what works for him. And for me, I know I needed to have at least $30,000 in my 10% account before I started buying things like gold and silver. And now it's about 70,000, 100,000 that I like having in my 10% account before I do go and invest in other things like that have intrinsic value. Do not invest in something that eats your money, you know, like a horse or a car. It's not for that. It's something that if you sold the next day, you could actually sell it for the same price or make more money. Okay, so use that 10%. I would love it if you were all interested in joining us for the 2018 year-long course. We've had some phenomenal stories from people that changed so much. Some people got out of debt after 17 years, and a lot of people joined the course and weren't in debt. They just actually decided to know more information about money, and they ended up creating more wealth. So it doesn't have to be that you're in debt. That's not a prerequisite. Don't go and create debt now if you want to join. It's okay. You can just join, okay? So if you want to find out more about that, please do. You can go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, which I'm sure that we will send to you. I don't know if we got everyone's details. Or I'm also doing a class, a once-off class in my house next week. It's on the 16th Australia time, so that would be the 15th in the US, and it's a one-day class on getting out of debt joyfully. It's $500. If you join the year-long course and sign up for that one, you actually get it for a cheaper rate, that one-day course. But it's live streamed, or you can come to my house in Peregian Beach. Of course, it's limited numbers. I don't live in a mansion yet, but there is space. So, but like I said, or you can buy the book, and if you're in English, it's in audio. It's in audio now as well that you can get. And very, 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 very soon, we were sort of, you know, battling with the Christmas, New Year holidays. If you haven't noticed, everything shuts down, and especially the printing and publishing industry. That's when they have a big break. So we will be very, very soon, you will be able to buy I think the Spanish will be the first, German, French, and Portuguese, and Polish we've got coming out as well. And a few more are in the works for a little bit later. So I think there's Rebecca's putting some links at the side here for you as well. But I really want to say, look, that's what's available from us. That's what's available from me. You can buy the book. You can do the year-long course, the one day. You cannot do any of it. It's like, this is not something that I'm trying to sell you in a way that you are less than if you don't choose it. The one thing I would love you to come away with today is knowing that you can change anything, that you can change your financial reality. It's like, you have to choose it though. You have to choose whatever that is going to contribute to you changing it. Okay? So I ask that you have the courage and you are willing to be brutally honest with yourself that whatever is going to change your financial reality for you today, that you take the action. Okay? Even ask, what action can I take today? And it might be just receiving that cup of coffee from someone. So please know that you can change anything. Okay? So thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you somewhere in the world soon, somewhere. I'm off to California. So I see that Santa Barbara has had fire, and now it's had massive floods. So we'll see what this adventure brings. And then I'll see some of you in Europe. So thank you, translators. Again, you're a gift of magnitude. I do not know how you do it. Yes.
One thing, did you say to everyone that even though they can't buy the book yet, they can download the first 2 chapters of the book in French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish?
Yeah.
Where?
So if you go to the link we put in the chat, gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com/buy, and you click on the flag that represents your language, you will then see that there is a place where you can sign up for that. So you don't have to wait.
Nice. I like that. Yes. Don't wait. Create.
Exactly. So just so you know, don't wait. Go and find your next chapter now.
Yes. Cool. And find us online, gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com. It's like, find someone. If you can't find it, tap someone on the shoulder and ask them for assistance. Guess what that is? Oh, that's receiving. You don't have to do it all on your own, okay? But great. So thank you so much, everyone, again. Adore you. Look forward to seeing you somewhere in the world. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Adios. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Adios. 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 Adios.
Love you.